Hi there, I'm Alex from the Southern Ukulele Store, and today I thought that we would look at mahogany ukuleles. We'd look at a soprano, a concert and a tenor that are so similar that they also ask the question, which size is most pleasing to your ear? I think we're all going to have different answers to that question, but I've chosen Kiwaya specifically because I think they make the most consistent ukuleles of any ukulele brand out there. And although that might be quite a bold statement to make, because Ukulele also make incredibly consistent ukuleles, I find that there is something very pure about Kiwaya. They're very traditional. They're no thrills. You know, you're not paying for the most kind of flamed koa with many of their standard and more popular, more famous models. But instead, if you look at the KTS-4, which many people think is the epitome of modern soprano ukuleles, and then you look at how similar the KTC-1 and the KTT2 are to that, you're basically paying for the same ukulele in a bigger size. So this should give us the most transparent comparison. So let's look at three ukuleles today: a soprano, a concert, a tenor, all by Kiwaya, all part of the artist series. And the first ukulele we're going to look at today is the KTS-4, which is my favourite soprano ukulele of all time. So the KTS-4 has been around for 100 years, which is crazy, because the KTS-4 is a copy of the most famous Martin soprano ukuleles of the 1920s. The KTS-4 is a Japanese-made, solid mahogany soprano ukulele. It's the most famous model in the Kiwaya catalogue. It has an ebony fingerboard and bridge. Models before 2017 would have had a rosewood fingerboard and bridge. You have mahogany on the top, back and sides, and just a tiny bit of decoration around the sound hole there. You've got that rosette. You have a mahogany neck. Modern versions have a Goto planetary tuner, which is a traditional looking modern geared tuner. You have a bone nut and saddle, and the nut width is something that many people talk about with Kiwaya as being a bit misleading. So the nut width is 36 mil, but when you really focus in on it and look at how the nut is smoothed off, the nut width is probably more akin to a 35 mil. And the neck profile on the Kiwayas is all very, very thin. So what you get is something that feels very precise, and your fingers have a lot of space on the fingerboard to move around without it feeling like it's designed for someone with big hands. So the KTS-4 is just like the Martin sopranos of the 1920s. It's plain to look at, but it has a very rich, very organic, natural sound to it. There's no natural compression. It's just a warm, very open, very bright ukulele, and I'm going to give it a play and see what you guys think. Bet one person out there gives this video a dislike because I fluffed that one C note. If you do, shame on you. Shame on you. Okay, so the second ukulele we're going to look at today is the KTC-1. Now, if you look at the KTC-1 against the KTS-4, which is next to it, you'll see that there's quite a big difference in size. The KTC-1 is still modelled on traditional concert ukuleles, but it feels bigger. It's not just the body shape that's slightly different, but the lower bout in your arms, the Concert feels more like modern ukuleles, but it still has all the traditional elements to it that make the KTS-4 popular. So it has the solid mahogany top, back and sides with the ebony fingerboard and bridge. You have that tiny bit of sound hole decoration that we've just talked about with the Soprano before. And modern incarnations of this ukulele have the planetary tuners rather than the friction tuners. You have that same 36mm nut width with a very slim neck. It's a very wide and open feeling neck for a concert ukulele. Factory Chinese-made concert and tenor ukuleles like Kala's and many of the Flight models, Lanakai, so many brands, Breedlove, they all have this slightly more C-shaped neck. This is just a very, very delicate, round, thinner neck shape on the Kiwayas. So let's give the KTC-1 a play and see what you guys think. Okay, and the final ukulele we're going to look at today is the Kiwaya KTT2, which is the tenor artist ukulele. So the KTT2 does differ ever so slightly from the other ukuleles on this range because the fingerboard does not end where the neck joins the body. The fingerboard extends all the way to the sound hole, which I forgot to mention in the earlier listings, but the KTC-1 and the KTS-4 both end just after the neck meets the body. And each of those ukuleles come in a size that has an extended fingerboard, so if you prefer that kind of thing and you are one of the few people out there playing a soprano or a concert ukulele that needs access to the 14th, 13th frets, then you can look at the KTS-5 and the KTC-2, which are models which have that extension. Usually they're about 5–10% more expensive than the KTS-4 and the KTC-1. But back to this one, this is the KTT2. The KTT2 is also mahogany on the top, back and sides with a ebony fingerboard and bridge and a bone nut and saddle. The tenor differs in that it has these really nice Goto geared tuners, really precise, really just they feel solid, but they don't weigh a ton. That's the most you can ask for from a tuner. They are really nice open back as well. I love open back tuners. I always feel like open back tuners are worth looking at because you can see, it's like when you buy a watch where you can see the mechanism. It's just a, you know, everyone's different, but I like pointing this stuff out. The KTT2, once again, just feels bigger. It's a bigger ukulele, but it's still the same kind of spec that you've just been looking at and listening to with the Soprano and Concert model. So the KTT2 is a new addition to us here at SUS, and the tenor ukulele in general is something that's on the rise in the Far East. So traditionally, and even up to the last 2 or 3 years, the Japanese market in particular I'm looking at focused mainly on soprano and concert ukuleles. So although Kiwaya did make tenors going back, as far as I can see, going back 40, 50 years, maybe even longer, you wouldn't necessarily see or hear about Kiwaya tenors as much because Japanese ukulele brands do not put as much focus on the tenors. Whereas in the Western world, brands like Kala, Kanaleya, I keep going back to Kala and Kanaleya, but big brands that are doing a lot of business, Flight's another example, and Ortega, they're almost completely eliminating soprano models from their catalogue as of 2020. Knowing my luck, I say this, and then next year everyone's relaunching soprano lines, but for now, the Kiwaya KTS-4 is probably the most famous soprano ukulele you can buy from a shop, where you just walk in, and except for maybe a Kamaka HF1, but if you want a mahogany soprano, the Kiwaya KTS-4 is the one for the job. And yet the more popular size tenor, the KTT2, is barely featured. So let's change that today. Here's the KTT2. Let's give it a play and see what you think. Sorry, just waving to my fan. Okay, so you've heard all three ukuleles. We've looked at a soprano, a concert, and a tenor, all by Kiwaya, all made of mahogany. But what did you think? Did you have a favourite? Is there a size that you think suits mahogany particularly well? I'd love to know in the comments section. Remember, if you have any questions about these ukes or any of the other ukes featured on the channel, you can contact me on 01202 430 820, or you can email me in store at alex@ukulele.co.uk. During the lockdown period, we are offering Zoom meetings with the same audio equipment we use for our videos, so the quality is fantastic and it's really helped some customers, certainly outside of the UK, that have wanted to gain the experience of coming to the shop without being able to come. So if you would like to do that, please do email me at alex@ukulele.co.uk and I will set you up with an appointment. In the meantime though, I hope you've all fallen in love with the Kiwaya mahogany ukuleles in the same way that I have in the past. They sit somewhere very special for me because they are affordable, within reason to most people's budgets. You know, if you want a high quality ukulele, they are certainly on the more affordable end. They are traditional. You can tell that a Kiwaya has not changed negatively over decades and decades, and that's not a knock at Martin and their ukuleles, but Martin have always, the ukuleles saved them at a time when, you know, the guitar business was not on the rise, and I do think that if you look back traditionally through Martin's time period, every time the guitar has a peak in popularity, the ukuleles take a bit of a back seat. Some of you out there are going to own C1Ks and T1Ks that are fantastic, and I've certainly played a fair few. But if you're looking for a traditional Martin style ukulele, I think in 2020 it's fair to say it's much harder to find one of those and to see Martin make that effort than it is if you look elsewhere. And if you are looking elsewhere, I highly endorse Kiwaya ukuleles. I've got absolutely no problem saying that the KTS-4 is my favourite soprano at any price, and if I was going to own a soprano ukulele, it would be a KTS-4. The KTC-1's fantastic, the KTT-2's fantastic. Let's just buy them all. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you soon.